Glad to have you with us. Today we'll be talking about leveraging password management solutions to grow your bottom line. And aren't we all looking to grow our bottom line? Just a few items. We have with us KeeperSecurity today, Joe Wallenbach. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to our webinars. You might have seen Joe from the launch webinar of Keeper. Sorry, it was such a success that we decided to have a sort of a phase 2 of the webinar to go a little bit more in depth about the business aspects and all of that. Today's webinar is recorded, so if you have to leave or there's anything, you're going to receive a link to the recording with the link to the presentation in the next 48 hours or so. Did introduce myself. I'm the Director of Product Innovation at Sherweb, responsible amongst other things for our cybersecurity and continuity product and marketplace. Today we're going to talk about a few things: the revenue opportunity around password management, how to expand your service stack, and then how KeeperMSP specifically can fit in your cybersecurity offering. If you have any question, have a look at the software. In the software, you can ask questions directly. Best way to do it, we will either answer during the presentation at the end, or we'll contact you directly to give you an answer to your question. Moving on to our first topic, password management, the revenue opportunity. We had a security masterclass that we called it in Toronto last week, and one of the comments of the partner was a bit of a impatience with just being told like they should buy a product, they're going to make more money that way. I think what we're talking about here is more than just like buy a product's going to magically make you money. Like it's more about the opportunity of building a practice around it, and how sort of the many things that a MSP has to do, password management and identity and access management as we move forward is becoming more and more of a ubiquitous sort of things that they have to do. Would you agree, Joe?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think ensuring that you have a proper security stance and safeguarding your clients is certainly the main thing, not exactly just here's another tool that you should probably add in the stack, in order to increase revenue or buy this tool. More about that overall security, ensuring that you and your clients are secure across the board.
Yeah, I think some of the points here that are specific, and I definitely agree with what you just said, but like we're just seeing more and more of that focus around that identity and access management. I think it often goes to the point that traditional security is becoming less and less relevant. It's now an old example, but the fact that it's old is actually talks specifically to the point that I'm making. In 2017, I was at RSA conference, the big conference for cybersecurity in San Francisco, and one of the talks that I saw that had a big effect on me was a Google presentation called Beyond Network. And basically back in 2017, which is what, 8 years now, they were talking about how they didn't believe edge security, like edge network security, was relevant at all, and it was all centered around device and identity, and that's how they manage their security. So, okay, fine, Google's Google, and they can be at the bleeding edge, but I think now 8 years later, we're now at a point where this is more and more relevant to the MSP today. Clients expect you to manage how they are, so remote, online, and that's how you increase your retention, as said here. That's how you bundle that security. One of the points that we often make is that, like, well, let me turn that into a question for you, Joe. Like, when we're talking about attaching your product and services, one of the things that we like about KeeperSecurity is that you have more than just like one SKU and that's it, like one basic SKU and that's it. You can go sort of up the stack. Like, how do you see sort of the progression amongst your product offering, and how does that relate to offering like sort of more mature cybersecurity services?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it depends on really the size of the client. It's for obviously personal use all the way up to Fortune 500 companies are utilizing our solution. So that stands for any MSP as well. They have a small law firm with 2 or 3 users in that law firm. We have our basic platform that you can easily provision to them so they can safely and securely store their information, share if need be. And then all the way up to our enterprise platform that offers all of our full suite of solutions, our privileged access management. So depending on the size of your client, small, medium, large, we have different solutions tailored to the different sizes of those clients and certainly their specific needs. Obviously, when you get into some of those larger organizations, you're managing different API keys, database passwords and everything comes into that secrets management, or even part of our connection manager, part of our whole privileged access management. So across the board, we have a slew of offerings with different levels of licenses that make it easy for you to roll it out to the specific client that you have or the size of them.
And I think one of the points we haven't touched on is the bottom left here. 88% of SMBs would switch MSP for better security. I think that's sort of an underestimated point. Like your clients, all clients, like all businesses will have security requirement. If you're not able to provide them, they'll go somebody else to provide them, especially as they're now tied to more and more rules and regulation, compliance requirements, things like that. Where I think things go off the rails a little bit for MSPs that have not sort of grown with cybersecurity is that if they start getting some higher value services, more strategic services around security from someone else, then you're sort of opening the door for them to just move completely over. Clients like MSPs would rather have fewer providers, and if something critical is being offered by somebody else, then you're running the risk that they will move everything over. You don't want to stay sort of in that not that critical segment of service providing. I think it goes here where we want to talk about is like how to expand your service stack with password management. Like how do you get to that next level? From your point of view, Joe, like as we were talking about, like you mentioned that you have the different SKUs to service. Like if we go a little bit more detail, how do I'm trying to turn the statement into a question because I think that's more fair way to approach it. But what is it that you see modern MSP offering through Keeper that help them stand out? Because I think password management sort of table stake. If you don't have it, like there's trouble. Like you gotta have it. Like, but so what are the next step? What are the things that people get into to change the conversation from just you're my IT provider to more we have a strategic conversation about how we sort of do things within the company?
Yeah, I think it really relies on some of the, obviously not only the additional add-ons that you can provide to clients, but the specific items that you have within the platform. So maybe some people, they're just provisioning the licenses to users and they're going ahead and they're using it. Where you can get more in depth and get more hands-on with your clients to ensure that users are only saving those passwords within Keeper. Turn off the ability for them to save on their browser or any other location or vulnerability scanning to ensure this is the single true source of our passwords. But also enforcing users to use strong passwords across all of their different logins. Monitoring their security audit for your different managed clients, ensuring that all their users have good password hygiene. You can actually export that report from the admin console for your clients and bring that to them on a quarterly business review. Say, hey, Jane Doe is doing well here, but user A over here looks like they have some very weak passwords. We need to go ahead and work with them, make sure that they have stronger hygiene across the board for all their different passwords. So some of those basic features within the platform, but then also taking on the advantage of the dark web monitoring, where we're ensuring that users are notified, or admins as well, if users possibly have new passwords or current passwords that are showing up on the dark web. Our compliance reports gives administrators the ability to ensure things aren't overshared within the organization, ensuring that only users or specific users, or maybe only the management team has access to the company bank account logins or something. Not that it's just shared to some random person in, in the sales team or whatever. They accidentally clicked in and shared it over to that person. And then also the reporting and alerts capabilities along with our SIM integration. So we have that ability for the external reporting directly out of the box for several different solutions. You can report on anything that happens within the platform. Also different alerts that can be set up so you can be notified in real time if something critical happens on the platform. But then even taking that a step further, like I said, depending on the size of the organization, what you may be managing, with the Keeper Privilege Access Management platform. So with Privilege Access Management, that incorporates the Keeper Secrets Manager, Connection Manager, Remote Browser Isolation. And soon we'll be rolling out our endpoint privilege management. So along with those, you have the ability to manage API keys, sort of database passwords, rotate any of those, create different connections to servers, RDP, or even specific websites for users to ensure that you're not actually sharing those credentials and you're creating that connection. So when they click to connect that, which we'll show you a little bit further here today, what exactly I'm talking about, that they're able to launch in, they're able to do whatever they need. You can record those sessions, make sure everything's going correctly, but you're not actually even revealing those login credentials for them. So certainly allows you to, as an administrator, provide only specific users with the access that they need. So certainly different offerings you have across the board, add-ons. Or it's really up. I always say to people, you can get very granular with some of the permissions and policies in the platform, but we have our different best practices, some ones we recommend creating. It just depends on how deep you want to go or how secure you want to be or what different policies you want on users.
That's super interesting. I think it all boils down to be as many steps removed from just providing licenses or a piece of software. Like, yes, you want to do that, but then you want to have them be reminded that they're dealing with you as often as possible, like through I think the use of the single sign-on and the password management is a good way to remind them that you are present and that you are sort of involved in their security. But then if you get to that, like privileged account management, secret management, things like that, then you sort of become an intricate part of their operation. And like we've seen it time and time again, the more involved you are in their operation, the harder you are to sort of get rid of. Like it makes you very, very sticky within an organization when you're part of all those secret management and identity management for sure. As mentioned here, also, like the more you're removed from a licensed provider as a concept, like to the client, the more you can sort of blend your pricing and then sort of take it away from like line item selling. Like you're not selling like a software like, oh, we have Keeper, we're going to sell you with a 10% margin. At the end of the day, if you're providing service that secures their system, allows them to do business, that's where you can have your higher margins. We're working with a number of MSPs, for example, and in our study of what they can charge and how they offer and everything, their margins are continuously higher than traditional MSPs. And even traditional MSPs are continuously higher than break and fix type of agreements. So as you move up the chain, like bigger retention or better retention, bigger margins. And it's hard to sort of argue with that. Again, to me, that conversation is kind of universal to how you provide your services. I attach them to building sort of a successful security practice. And then I attach that to being a modern type of provider, and being modern is centered around, I'd say two things. Modern security is around like identity and access management, and then data governance. And data governance is a topic for another day. That is quite a bit of a piece of headache in and of itself, especially with AI and everything. But I think identity and access management, when we're talking about small, medium businesses, is a problem that is not easy. Easy is not the right word, but that is solvable, like that you could put into place using the right technology and process within your organization. So we have it here. We sort of illustrated it, but I'll be honest, like you guys can tell us better than we can tell you. If you have comments on what we have here, like for sure, like put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. From our point of view, like that's the evolution. Like you can have a look at it and give us your feedback. Maybe are you more on the left side as a traditional MSP, or are you more of a modern MSP already where you offer all those things? So I think there's a bit of a chain here. Some of those things have been done already for most people. Like I'm gonna assume EDR, most people, cloud backups, I think most people. But after that, like identity and access management, security awareness training, vulnerability management, email security is more of a typical. Is it modern email security? Like, is it AI powered? Like, are you using best of class, or do you have like sort of the default that came with the platform? So this is a simplified version of that list. There's other layers where you can go fancier and fancier as you sort of build it out. But these are good sort of metrics to see, like, are you modern MSP when it comes to cybersecurity? All of those things that we have here, they're all provided by Sherweb. Like you can talk to us about any of those things. We'll help you out. But it is certainly a question, like, if you haven't made that journey, like if you're not in the progress of getting all those things implemented in your service, then it's a good question to ask. And the thing that I would say, one of the mistakes that we've seen, is to provide them just as licenses. Again, stay away from being just a license provider. Honestly, it's an easier sell, a cycle, if you're providing it as a complete service. More and more, like the MSP don't itemize the technology that they use. One of the big advantage there is if you don't itemize your technology, but rather what you sell is your service and even better outcomes. Like if you're selling the outcome, then when you have to change technology, if you have to select another provider, if you have to evolve in what you're doing, then your client is just attached to the service that you're providing, and you can do whatever you want when it comes to technology management, which is an important factor. So specifically to Keeper, like you want to tell us a bit of you want to talk to this slide a little bit, Joe? As people are sort of building that service offering, when it comes to password management, like what are the sort of the key points that you guys like to highlight to MSP?
Yeah, certainly. And right, as I kind of pointed out before, there's different tiers you're able to get in with our basic business platform. As you see here, it starts as $375 per user per month, all the way up to our enterprise platform, which is with our plus and all the different features, can be $8 per user. So depending on, like I said, the size of the client, what different features you are really wanting to provide them, kind of comes down to what different license. All of our basic licenses provide a vault for users, the ability to utilize the browser extension or a desktop app or the mobile app. All of our different platforms are available regardless of the license type. The password generator, the ability to store different information, share with different clients, or with any other user. So all those basic abilities are there for any different user, depending on which doesn't rely on the specific license type, just our basic features. But you also have the ability to add on different features one by one. So we do have bundled packages. However, if you'd like to just provide the dark web monitoring to user, you can select to only provide dark web monitoring. Very easy to bolt those add-ons on as you go. Or additionally, the reporting, the advanced reporting with the SIM integration, or even all the way up to the privileged access management. So, right, as you kind of grow with those clients, you'll see yourself adding on those additional items. Maybe like I pointed out before, you have a small law firm. They just need a safe, secure location to store their information, share information if needed. Great, you can provide them with the business licenses. Maybe as they start to grow, they have 15, 20 users. You want to be able to report on different things. You want to be able to receive alerts. Certainly a great time for you to start adding in the advanced reporting alerts or even that dark web monitoring. And then from there, right, you can even do the SSO integration. So Keeper has the ability to integrate with any SAML 2.0 identity provider, specifically Microsoft Entra ID. So certainly users can use those current credentials to log into their vault instead of creating a master password. And again, For me, I think it is something that's very valuable. One less password for users to remember, and certainly if users ever forget that, you can go on to the SSO side and reset that on the SSO side. So there's definitely many benefits to having that single sign-on integration with Keeper. And then as you grow into some of those larger organizations, you have that ability to the privileged access management can depend on your different clients and what their needs are, their infrastructure looks like.
So there was a couple of questions while we were talking, and they bring me to sort of two key points when people are increasing that service, as you said, like building it out. One of them, like, you shouldn't be afraid to get started, and a lot of products and services don't have any minimum requirements, and Keeper being one of them. There is no reason to start today, start with one client. Like you don't have a commitment for many years, or you don't have like a minimum amount of seats or anything like that. So that's definitely one of the motivating factor to make sure you get started and make sure you sort of tackle it head on. The other one was around not automation, but sort of integration. So do you have integration into PSAs and RMMs for MSPs?
Yes, so we actually utilize a third-party integrator, Gradient MSP. First connector with them is free, so if you're just connecting your Keeper licenses, they can connect into, I think, 13 different PSA tools, all the big name ones out there. And so you can easily connect your Keeper account, be able to do that license reconciliation there, be able to easily connect, be able to link your different managed companies directly into what you have in your PSA tool as well. So we do have that third-party integrator available for anyone.
Okay. So actually, speaking of putting everything into practice, let's talk about case study. So I'll let you sort of introduce the story here of DefenTec.
Yeah, so DefenTec is one of our partners. Signed on years ago. They've been a great partner with us. They are always adding clients. They are always in connection with us on different things that we're rolling out on the platform. But their real reason for coming to Keeper was the fact that they had plenty of different clients that had issues related to passwords, people storing things all over the place, or people potentially being breached. They saw that as a huge problem across their different clients, and even for their staff. They didn't necessarily have one single source of truth across their organization. So their plan when they came to us and we showed them everything we were able to do with the platform for them and their clients, their decision was to roll Keeper out across all of their organization, as well as their different clients. Anyone that they're currently using or any current or any future customer, they are rolling out Keeper to them, regardless of what different license type they are receiving this. This is going to be our single source of truth. That gave them the ability to, add that added trust for their clients that we're ensuring that you guys don't have things that are stored on sticky notes or wherever else they are. We're putting password minimums on all these different apps or different places where you want to store information to ensure that users use the Keeper password generator instead of trying to remember their dog's name or plus their aunt or whatever else it may be, right? So as you continuously get 20 different characters, okay, it becomes a little tough to start remembering that for all these different passwords. That's where the generator comes in handy, and it's just right there. You're able to save that, get people utilizing the platform a whole lot better. But yeah, for them to be able to bundle Keeper in their offering and have that as secure across the board, we're kind of saying it's not necessarily an additional revenue stream to be seen as. Yes, it does provide additional revenue, but you are providing a baseline security posture for all of your different clients. That Keeper is the single source of truth for all the passwords across all the different organizations. 80% of password or 80% of breaches are due to weak passwords. So certainly, taking a big factor out of the hands of the end user and placing it more within computers, making sure that since computers are a whole lot smarter than us, so we want to ensure that you're taking a little bit more of that human effect out of it, and ensuring that you have strong passwords across the board. So certainly DefenTec was able to to deploy this securely, safely to all their different clients, and they've been happy, and continuously for any new client they onboard, they're always rolling it out to them.
Yeah, it's about that actual security improvement. Then it's the perception of value that the MSP provides. And then there's actual revenue attached to it, which is kind of the cherry on top there. Rolling right along, like let's get even more practical. We're going to take a few minutes to get into the product platform. So if you want to, this moment, yeah. So if you want to share your screen,
yeah,
show us the magic.
Make sure I'm sharing correctly.
Yep, I can see it.
All right, you guys can see it? Perfect. All righty. Okay, there we go. Awesome. All right, perfect. So here you can see this is the MSP admin console. When you first log into the MSP admin console, you are managing you and your staff within this location. You get an overview of the top events for your company, the security audit for your different users within your organization, or the breach watch if users are potentially having things show up on the dark web. Let's just hope that yours doesn't look as bad as what you see here on this example in this demo, but certainly you have a high security score across the organization, and that breach watch is super low. Whereas the MSP, right, you still have the ability to add your different staff in here. You have, as I mentioned, the provisioning methods available. So we can integrate with any single sign-on solution or a single identity provider, whether that's cloud or on-prem. You have the Active Directory, LDAP sync or SCIM provisioning in order to easily onboard users or sync different groups into teams within Keeper. Very quick and easy. A lot of our partners take advantage of this. This is a great ability to easily onboard those users, and you're not just in there adding, every single person in there one by one if you have a larger customer. And our documentation walks through that. Keeper or the Sherweb team can certainly help you out implementing that. But the big portion, as I kind of talked about a little earlier, are the roles and teams. So roles are policies around a user's vault access. You can get extremely deep on any of these enforcement policies that you put on users. You can require them to have a certain length of a master password when logging into their vault. You can require users to use 2FA when logging into their vault, how often they need to use that, or which different 2FA methods you allow them to use. You can restrict certain vault features. You can prevent users from permanently deleting records from within their vault for 365 days. That way, if you have disgruntled employees leaving on bad terms, they can't go and delete everything and leave you high and dry. You'll still be able to recover that. Our creating and sharing, you can prevent certain users from creating different records or shared folders, or preventing them from sharing anything outside the organization. So depending on how secure you want to be, or different users within the organization, depending on where they sit, you can give some users higher or lesser privileges within the platform. You can also set a logout timer on the platform. That way users do have to re-authenticate into their vault after X amount of time. And our big one here that we do have is we call our account transfer policy. When this is enabled, it allows a Keeper administrator to transfer a user's vault over to someone else within the organization. That way no passwords are lost. Anything pertaining to the company is still retained by the company. You can also perform this for any of your managed clients. However, if Jane Doe is leaving company X, her vault can only transfer over to another user within company X, not leave that company and go to yours or someone else's. So certainly ensures that everything is still retained by the company when someone leaves. The other portion with this are the teams. And the teams really drive the sharing amongst users within an organization. So you can, depending on where people sit, you can give them read or write capabilities on records that are shared with them in a shared folder, or you can, as you see here, restrict those capabilities. So you can have people reshare, edit, or even view those passwords for this specific team. We've restricted those capabilities. Now this is just one user here as a test user, but any other team, if we kind of come in here to, I thought I saw another one here, full right, these two users here, anything that's shared to them in a shared folder, they have full management capability over those records. So again, depends on where users sit within the organization. You can work with your clients to ensure that their teams are set up correctly, or as I mentioned, If you're doing that skim provisioning, map those different teams you may have over into Keeper, and then be able to put those certain permissions on them. But you can also kind of adjust some of this directly within the vault, which we'll show you in a little bit when you are sharing information over to other users. And then lastly, we have 2FA capabilities for users when they are logged into their vault, text message, authenticator apps, Keeper DNA, as a notification to a user's smartwatch for their 2FA push, security keys, or RSA and Duo as well. I will touch on a couple of these other things here within one of the managed companies. So let me show you kind of the bigger portion here is this managed companies tab. This is actually where you are able to manage those clients you want to resell Keeper to. You can see there's several different examples. At any time, you can come in here and select Add Managed Company, type in whatever that company name is. You can go ahead and select a plan, depending on the size of the client or what different features. And then we do have, as I mentioned, those additional add-ons here. So you can add any of these different add-ons if you want. Maybe we want to add compliance reporting for them. And the other great portion with this is you can actually choose the number of licenses that are allowed for the specific client. If you are co-managing the admin console, you can come in here and you can put a number in with this client. So maybe we've actually contracted with them for 20 licenses, and they do have an on-site IT person that's going to kind of help us manage this. Well, we want to ensure that they don't go over that 20 license limit. So we're going to go ahead and put that 20 license limit in there. That way they can add users whenever they want, but it's never going to go past that 20 user limit. Next thing you know, you're paying for 100 licenses that you'd only contracted for 20. So it certainly allows you as the MSP to put that limit on there when you are contracted with your client. So we can go ahead and select save. Now we'll populate in here alphabetically, as you can see here with this company that I've added. And from this location, we can select this launch tab. This takes us into this company's admin console where we can act as their administrator. Now let me show you one I've already built out here that's a little larger, this Provision Corp. They're an Enterprise Plus plan, so they have all the full features available to them. You as the MSP, you have all the full features available to you as well. So again, they have the admin tab for provisioning users, those roles and teams. You have a risk management dashboard on this platform. So you can see critical items that we recommend enabling or different ones that you have already enabled to ensure that it is a safe, secure platform across the board and you have critical items enabled on the platform. The security audit, as I mentioned before, you can actually see if users have weak passwords, they're strong, or if they're reusing any, or which 2FA method they're using when logging into their vault. However, with the Keeper Zero Knowledge platform, meaning no one at Keeper, administrator, or any other user has the ability to view what's in their user's vault, this is the length of the passwords you're going to be able to see. I'm never going to know what these 4 weak passwords are that Randy has. I'm just going to know that he has 4 weak ones. I can reach out to him, ask him to change those, make sure they're stronger, more unique. Same thing with our Breach Watch tab. Breach Watch provides users with the specific passwords that are showing up on the dark web or possibly showing up on the dark web for their Breach Watch tab. But Randy here, I'm just going to see that he has 7 passwords that are possibly showing up on there. I can reach out to him, ask him to change those. As I mentioned, our compliance reports, this gives a little bit more information. We can add it on here that is an additional add-on, but gives you the ability to view titles of records as you see here, or which users actually have access to that information to ensure that user or information isn't overshared within the organization. The Secrets Manager and Connection Manager, Secrets Manager provides the ability for you to access manage API keys, database passwords, any different confidential information, or rotate those different passwords. The Connection Manager is an agentless remote desktop gateway. It can be stored on a different device, provides IT teams to network access, RDP, SSH, Kubernetes, anything directly through a web browser, and those sessions can be recorded again, as well as the remote browser isolation for specific browser recordings and access, which we mentioned. I'll show you a little bit more of this when we hop into the end user vault in just a moment. The other bigger portion on here, as we kind of discussed earlier, is that reporting capability. So anything that happens on the platform, you can report on. You can filter this information by one or multiple users. There are over 100 different event types to filter through, specific attributes, or you can review this information on a custom timeline. Additionally, with our alerting capabilities, same thing. You can create as many as you would like, filter by those 100+ event types, the attributes are related to a user or a specific record. And then you can actually set yourself up or another user to be a recipient to receive an email, text message, or a webhooks link in any messaging platform. So you can receive a notification on that alert. And then lastly, on the reporting capabilities, the external logins we mentioned, if you are using any of these different SIM tools, we have the ability to export your Keeper information in real time so you can report on a higher level. Or if you're using something you don't see here, we do have our basic syslog push as well. So certainly some key items to ensure users and organizations are up to date on the different security issues going on within the platform. So let's just kind of touch on a little bit here at the admin console. Now, when you are provisioning to different users, we'll hop over in here to the end user vault. Regardless of what different license type you provision to your clients, this is their exact view here for their vault. They're able to see the different passwords that they have that are stored within their vault or anything that they share or that is shared to them. So for example, I have this air call record that I've added in here. I have a long, strong password. I have the URL in here, so I can easily just launch directly into this specific web page. Or another example I have here is I've actually implemented two-factor authentication into this specific website or into this specific record. So this is utilizing the Google Authenticator. You can save that 2FA code directly within the record, so Keeper will push that and log you right in every time you go to that website. So again, all I really need to do here is just select launch. This will take me directly to GitHub. I guess I was already logged in, so let's go ahead and just sign on out there. And we'll go ahead and go right back into that. So I'm going to go ahead and have this autofill that information, sign in. It'll push that to a FA code for me. I don't want to do passkey right now for this. I want to leave that, but certainly I can. We have the ability to save passkeys as well. So as you can see with that, automatically filled that information for me. You can also utilize the browser extension. That's the great thing with the platform. It doesn't matter how a user wants to. If they want to log into their web vault every day, they can. If they just want to log into their browser extension, they can search for any of the different logins. So if I just type in Joe, you'll see the different logins that have Joe attached to them. Or again, the GitHub, we're just right here on this one. I can open that up. I can still view, or I can even launch and autofill that information directly from here. So it really just kind of depends on how a user wants to operate with the platform on a daily basis. Not one specific way that you're supposed to use the platform. It's for every different user. One of the other capabilities we kind of discussed is some of that sharing stuff. So I have this shared folder I've created. I have additional records within this, and I've shared this over to different teams, and I've given them different capabilities. So they have the ability to either reshare, edit, or view those passwords. I know we're kind of getting trapped on time here. So one of the other things we really did want to show you is a little bit more of the KeeperPAM capabilities. So as I pointed out, we do have the remote browser isolation capabilities. So here we've created a connection for Bing remote browsers. So we can actually launch this. As you'll see, this connection has been created for me. Randy's created this. He's shared it over to me. So this is just popping up directly into a browser. And I can come in here and I can just go ahead and go to Sherweb or any other website if I want. You can also lock this down to specific websites or web pages if you want. There's no way for the user to inspect the browser, gain access to any of those different credentials. You're creating that connection for them and allowing them to actually have this or be able to do whatever they need. And this session is actually recorded as well, so administrators can view that information. Additionally, if we kind of go into my SQL database, we can also connect to, again, SQL databases, SSH as well. We go ahead and just see what we got going on here. Again, type anything in, Joe test, whatever it may be. So again, you can do whatever you would really like within these different databases, or again, even SSH keys as well. The other thing we were discussing a little bit more about was the ability to manage different secrets. So if I scroll down, I believe I have this SSH key. Here we go. So here's a different kind of a key we have available. Again, very long one. You have that ability to rotate this information. So again, I've recently rotated this morning, but at any time I can do this on demand. You can set these up to be rotated on a schedule. Depends on how you really want to set that up. But I just can click rotate. Again, this will take a little bit of time. It's just utilizing some different API keys, reaching out to those database in order to change that password. But again, you'll be able to, set these different connections, be able to give different users access. You can see here on this toggle, I have shared this over to different users, or it's been shared to me, just designated by this sharing icon here as well. So it's completely up to the administrator being able to share that information over to different users with read or write capabilities, restricting that access in order to view that information. But again, with the connection manager, you are creating those connections, allowing specific users to have access to that, or you're able to set up the different secrets, be able to give users the ability to rotate those passwords, or even be able to restrict some of that viewing so they can log into that information. It really kind of depends on the level of what information you are managing for your different users. One of the couple things here I'll just touch on again lastly before we kind of leave some time for some questions. As we mentioned here, every user does have that ability to view the strength of their passwords, whether they're strong, medium, or weak. And then also we pointed out our breach watch tab. And again, breach watch is our own proprietary dark web monitoring. So we'll let end users know if they possibly have passwords showing up on the dark web. This is very critical how we do it on our side, ensuring that we still maintain that zero knowledge platform. You can come in here, view any of these. Obviously, password 123 is going to be out there on the dark web. You want to ensure that a user rotates this password, make sure it's strong and more unique. So kind of stop there. See if there are any different questions or anything you want to hop in here and facilitate here, Joe.
Hey, thanks for the demonstration, Joe. That was super interesting. Certainly helps to see it. Every time I see Keeper, I feel like it just does what it's supposed to do. And I don't mean that in a bad way, quite the opposite. Like I mean that in a great way. Like it just seems like it was meant to do this stuff and it does it well, simple, easy to implement. That's really great. I'll go very quickly on a few things that are Sherweb centric for KeeperSecurity, but since we have a bunch of questions, I'm actually gonna go very quickly through this and keep the time for the questions. So there's a NFR, actually, well, KeeperMSP itself, you have to license it as an MSP and it gives you additional feature at low price. There's also free trial when you create new companies. Activation processes through our new vendor activation in Cumulus. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. For more information on Keeper, and when you get, obviously we know you can try clicking your screen, it doesn't work too well. When you get the presentation, you'll have those links that you can use to get more information. Going to question, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer all of them, Joe, but don't start sweating just yet. If you don't have the information, just let us know and we'll make sure that we get back to those people. But there's a few really good questions. So, and you may have touched on some of those, but if I don't think they were fully answered, I'll still like sort of present them to you. Is there, like, can you tell us just a little bit about the import and export of data features? Like, is there a way to change like data from one client to another, or import them or export anything? How does people, like, how do you bring people on board and then how do you sort of let them leave? Because that can happen as well.
Yeah, so as far as users importing their information, several different routes. They can import directly from the web browser. If they're saving things on the browser, we have several different direct imports from different competitors. Example, LastPass, we have direct import through the desktop app, so users can type in their LastPass credentials to easily import their that information in their Keeper Vault and hold that same folder structure, or the ability to import via CSV, via CSV file or JSON as well. So several different ways that users can add that in, or certainly they can add user records on the fly. Users can export that information at any time if they want, if their Keeper administrator allows them to export their vault. So kind of up to you guys on that. Also, to kind of point out for different clients, right? Let's just say you have a client that you provision license to for Keeper. You're splitting up, they're going to go a different way. You can easily just remove them from your MSP instance and spins them off into their own Keeper Enterprise Edition. They can choose to move under a new MSP or purchase a direct subscription or go to some other vendor if they want. So very easy to maneuver, onboard different users, different clients.
Okay, that's great. Question here, I guess two questions. One, and I think you answered that pretty clearly, do you have to cover every user in an organization when you add Keeper to an organization? Could you do it? Let's say you have 100 worker, 90 of them are factory floor worker, and then you have 10 information worker. Can you just get 10 license for the information workers?
Yeah. I mean, certainly you don't have to license everybody in the company. It's entirely up to you. And like you said, right, if you have factory workers, they're probably never using a computer. All they're doing is maybe just clocking in for the day. There's no real point to license them. You're just spending additional money that doesn't really need it. So yeah, you can pick and choose the number of users. It is entirely up to you, and you're able to add those users one by one or sync all those different users or certain groups over with the skin provision. So entirely up to you on how you may want to license your clients.
Okay. Is there a way as a MSP to access the password of your clients? Either asking for permission or don't, or is there no way at all? How does that sort of work?
So unless your client shares that information over to you, there is no way for you to access that information. It's completely isolated to them, and same thing, within an organization, unless someone is sharing over to each other, or two of us are working together. I'm never going to know what you have within your vault unless you and I are sharing information over to each other. So that's kind of the key to our zero knowledge platform, that all the encryption ties back to the end user and happens on the end client device. We're not holding on to any portion of the end user encryption key. It all resides with that end user. So if you have ABC client, you're never going to know what any of those different clients or what any of those different users are storing within your vault, or even your internal staff, unless you are sharing things to them, or vice versa there.
We're still getting questions right now, so that's really good. Another question about the users. So if you have set up a Microsoft 365 Entra sync, which is one of the methods that you talked about to get users into the system, is there a way to make it automatically add a license to a new user, or is that always a reactive process that you have to do afterward?
So yeah, you do have the ability, as I mentioned, you can use either the Active Directory LDAP sync or the skin provisioning with the Entra ID to easily onboard those users. So let's go ahead and say that you add a new user into Entra. It will sync over into Keeper, and it will provision that user a license automatically. So you don't have to go in and add them much of the time. Certainly you can still add them one by one if you want, but yeah, we do have that automated provisioning available for you through Entra as well. So, and then depending on how you want to have it set up, right, users are able to log in, or you can mandate to have 2FA. Kind of depends on how you have things set up on the Entra side as well. But yes, you have the ability to automate that on for you.
Okay, a couple of quick questions on security that I think are interesting. Is there an additional layer of security around who can use what password when? Meaning, I'll give you a specific example. Could you limit to only certain IP? The client can use this login and this password because it's theirs, but only if they're in on this specific IP address. Do you have some kind of controls on top of just the access control?
Yeah, certainly. You can limit the access to a platform or even the specific IP address location. So you can have it, specific range on there. Maybe they can only access this directly from, the office location. I would say that's certainly a great thing for, maybe office managers. You can only access Keeper and these passwords directly from the office location, only on the web vault or the desktop app. You're not going to be able to utilize the mobile. Whereas, this owner, you can go ahead and you can utilize Keeper wherever you may want. Kind of just depends. But yes, you have the ability to limit users' access to specific information per platform or IP address.
Okay, and speaking of limitation, yeah, there's a sharing mechanism obviously within the platform. Like as an administrator, do you have some control on limiting that sharing? Could you say, for example, you can share a password, but you can only share within the organization, or are there some controls around that?
Yeah, you can get very granular with the sharing. So yes, you can restrict users from sharing anything outside the organization. You can restrict them from only adding records into shared folders, restricting their sharing completely, or they can only receive shared information. So depending on what you really want to do, you can get very granular with the sharing to only allow users to put new records into only shared folders. So that way, if somebody is in the accounting department, they go ahead and they make some new login that is for other users within the department. They make sure that goes into that shared folder for all those other users to use, and not just stays in their vault as a single record, and no one knows they ever have it. So you can get very granular depending on what your needs are with the sharing.
Okay, there's a few more questions that are a bit more specific. We'll keep those to the side and answer to people directly. Joe, I want to thank you very much for participating in this webinar. As always, super insightful. Thanks for answering all the questions. Clearly, there's quite a bit of interest on the product, so that's great to see.
No, great to be on here. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we were able to go through a little bit more of what KeeperSecurity has to offer, and hopefully some MSPs will take advantage of the platform and be able to protect themselves and clients moving forward.
So for everybody that was here, if you have any additional question, or if you haven't answered in a way that is satisfying to you, hold us to it. Definitely contact either your account representative or directly our partner support line, and we'll give you the answer. If you're ready to try Keeper, there's many mechanisms that are there to make it as easy as possible. Just talk to us, and we'll make sure that you have a pleasant experience. I want to thank everybody, and we'll see you in the next webinar.